The Dark Quarter does something cool that elevates the Destinies system that it was built upon. Now, it also inherits a problem that, depending on the type of gamer you are, may make or break the experience for you. But first I want to talk about where it makes the improvements on Destinies. One of the biggest upgrades here is the character progression system. In Destinies, your stats shift a bit and you gather items, but outside of upgrading your skill cubes, you're pretty limited in how your character can grow. The Dark Quarter fixes that. Each detective has their own ability deck with starting unlockable abilities and others that become available as you move through the story. And the cool part is, these abilities aren't just small bonuses, they actually change how you interact with the dice system for the most part. Some abilities let you control your rolls better, some give you high reward combo turns, others add new ways to manipulate the dice. And these abilities unlock as you play, like I said. The S stands for your starting unlockable abilities, and then the 1, 2, and 3 represent abilities that unlock during chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the campaign. I call them chapters rather than scenarios, because I don't want you to get the idea that they're unrelated one-offs. Each chapter continues the same story you're a part of here. Now, I didn't look ahead at the abilities until I actually unlocked them in the game for my two characters, and I'm glad that I didn't because it gave me a sense of discovery when a chapter ended and I got to take a look at my two characters' new abilities, and some of them like, oh, I really want that one. And that one, okay, that's the one I'll discard, because when you acquire an ability, it'll cost you 3 XP. You'll, add it to your current arsenal, but then you have to get rid of one of the other ones that you unlocked and permanently discard it from the game. And so that just prevents you from getting every single ability in the game. It gives you a little bit of decision space, though. I really didn't have a tough time figuring out, the ones that I wanted and the ones that I could see go. This progression system was my favorite part of the entire experience. It gave me real options for where to spend my XP, whether I wanted to unlock a new ability or upgrade one of my skills. Now, the skill upgrades work a little different than they do in Destinies. If you look at the player board, the cost to upgrade your cubes depends on where you're moving them. Moving a cube into slots 1 to 6 will cost you 4 XP. Moving a cube into 7 to 9 will cost you 3, and then moving a cube into 10 through 12 costs you 2 XP. Because you can spend 2 XP, and that allows you to add a new cube into the 12 slot, as long as it's empty. You can't upgrade a cube into a space that's already occupied. So for example, if the 6 space is full, I'd have to move that cube to the 5 first before I could upgrade the 7 into a 6. Max amount of cubes on any track is 4. And all of this gave me a sense of control over how my character progressed, and it made the two detectives I played feel genuinely different from one another. So if you enjoyed Destinies but wish that the character progression felt deeper or more impactful, then that is one of the strongest reasons that the Dark Quarter might really resonate with you. So for the dice system, the Dark Quarter works off of the same effort dice system that Destinies did. And if you're not familiar with Destinies, that's okay. On any particular skill test for when you're testing your cube, say I was up here testing my talent. I'm always going to roll my 2 base dice, but I get to choose how many effort dice I want to add to that roll. So for instance, if I decided to just roll 1 and rolled right here, I would have a 4 plus a 1 plus anything that was triggered by any of my special abilities. Right here, this professional skill in all tests, each 4 also adds 2 to the total of the roll. So instead of a 5, I would end up with a 7. Then I would go here, I didn't roll 2 1s, and in this test, each fleur-de-lis counts double. Well, I didn't roll any of those. So I ended up with a 7, and I'll come over here, look at my 7, and then any cubes that match that column or to the left is the amount of successes I have. So I would end up with 2 successes for this particular talent skill check. Now, this system works particularly well when you have 2 or 3 skill types available to determine how many you're going to use, like how important you think that skill test is. But when you don't have any effort dice, you obviously have no decision space there. You're just rolling and hoping. Or sometimes you get those back-to-back tests, and if you commit, all of your effort dice, that kind of leaves you bare for the next test, which may be a critical one, and that can feel a little underwhelming, to be honest. Now, the dice do vary a little bit. The base dice that you have, there is a 3 on 2 sides, and then there's a 4 on another side. So 50% of the time you're getting a 3 or higher. You also have a 2, a 1, and then an asterisk with certain special abilities will trigger special things depending on the character you're playing as. The effort dice have 2 sides with 2s, a 1, and a 3. You'll have that same asterisk, and then you have a fleur-de-lis symbol, which is an automatic success. So if I would have rolled this along with the 7 over here for my talent skill test, I would have ended up with the 2 there, plus this automatic success, and I would have ended up with 3 successes for that test. This system was introduced in Destinies, and I found it innovative, and I still enjoy it. I do. Now, I would call this game a hybrid of Chronicles of Crime and Destinies, but let me show you where it differs. So, as you're going throughout the story, you're going to be discovering these different points of interest, and you are playing the role of a detective. So, as you go to the different spots and click on them in the app, this is now discovered. These you haven't been to yet to help you keep track while you're going. And then it'll have you put out an area card. And it'll have you put out different tokens in that area. And inside the app, it'll tell you what they are. Sometimes it'll have you put out different people tokens or character tokens. And there's quite a few of those. And you can also interact with them through the app. The reason I say it's Chronicles of Crime related is kind of because you have the QR scanner, and because you're playing the role of a detective, you might think that it's Chronicles of Crimes like, but it's not. It's more Destinies DNA, because you're discovering story, not deductively trying to figure out a crime. Sure, you're going through the story of a crime, but you're really, discovering your backstory and interacting with it, going in a sort of a linear path, even though you got the different areas you're going to go to. It's definitely more Destinies narrative driven is what it is. It's narrative driven, not, detective style, deductive reasoning. Another really cool thing is the time decisions. At the very start of the game, you're asked to choose your time pressure setting, low, medium, or high. I actually recommend choosing high pressure because it adds attention and responsiveness that really leans into what an app-driven game can do. For example, imagine a car's coming at you and the app flashes 2 choices on screen. Maybe you dodge, another one's maybe you roll over the hood. And your time pressure setting determines how long you have to react. It adds immersion, and it's something you can't replicate with static cards or slow decision making. It's excellent use of the app to engage you in that moment of the game. I thought that was really cool. Well done. Now, with that being said, there's a couple things that pulled me out of the experience. First and foremost is the New Orleans meets Supernatural theme just isn't my favorite. And there's a lot of app to board switching, though I prefer using the app over rummaging through a printed card system like the 7th Continent. But there's still the back and forth to digging out location cards and tokens, and managing the physical board while following a digital storyline isn't as smooth as here as it is in Chronicles of Crime. There's simply more board maintenance, more location cards and tokens entering and leaving play, and those things combined all participated in making the game less immersive than what I would have liked. Okay, so for the replayability of the game, the Dark Quarter comes with one story. That story has 4 chapters. There's 4 different characters in the game, and if you're playing solo, you have to play with 2 of the characters. So the maximum amount of times you're going to play this game is twice, unless you are a hardcore gamer and you want to check out all the different options and the different choices you can make and see it out to their ends. Now, there are 2 expansions that are available for this game, and from what I can see from reading into them just a little bit, there are 4 new characters in each of the expansions, so you get to explore the backstories of those. But it looks like it's probably going to be 2 and done as well if you want to go back and play the game with the other 2. Like I said, I don't know, maybe in this you can play with just one of the characters in the expansion. I didn't look into too much detail because I'm not going to be picking up either of the expansions. Now, I enjoyed my time with the Dark Quarter, so I should start with my final thoughts here. And I want to start off by saying that I'm not the biggest fan of narrative-driven games. Going to one option or another to read a block of text isn't my favorite thing in games until I get submersed in the world, and as long as they're not big, chunky blocks of text. And I found that the Dark Quarter didn't really do that. I didn't get hit with big page after page of me having to read. It was done very well in smaller, bite-sized chunks. That being said, a narrative game has to have something going for it to keep my interest. And in the Dark Quarter, that progress system really held my interest of me wanting to see my character grow and getting the different abilities and upgrading my skills. That kept me engaged in the game, as well as it had other cool moments. Like I said, the time pressure decisions you would make as you were going through the story. Not to mention that it was a good story. I enjoyed the story itself. So it had those things going for it. There are a couple things I do want to say, because if you're on the fence and you haven't decided whether you think this is a game for you or not, let me start off by saying who I think should not get this game. One, if you don't like app-assisted games, then you don't want to get this game. The game relies heavily on the app. You will be interacting with the app quite a bit in this game. Number 2 is if you are offended by profanity and vulgar language, you want to skip it. This game has quite a few F-bombs in it, and I think it fits the setting pretty well. I'm not offended by, vulgar language at all, so I think it sits a little bit more. It's more realistic, and murderers going around and, dropping F-bombs rather than please and thank yous. But that is a reason you may want to avoid it, especially if you have kids in the house, unless you're going to play it late at night or something. But I digress. Another reason, and this is a tricky one, if you're not a fan of narrative-driven games and they're not your favorite, you may not like this game, but there is a caveat to that. If you like, say, Arkham Horror style, supernatural type settings and environments, and you are a fan of games where you grow in power and get stronger, you may still end up liking this game, even though narratives aren't your favorite mechanic in a game. So, with that being said, that's pretty much wraps up my final thoughts on the Dark Quarter. I'm glad I played the game. I thought it was a good game, even though I ended up jumping out of the board game experience and going straight over to the app. If you did that in Destinies, you may end up doing it here. And I would say that if you were a fan of Destinies, you will probably like the Dark Quarter. And if you didn't like Destinies, you're going to get more of the same here, though the progress system is elevated. So that's my thoughts on the Dark Quarter. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you'd like to read my written review on the game, as well as written reviews for some other games that I've done, then go ahead and check out my website, dytforge.com. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next video.